Hello, I'm Dave Marsh, the Spy Guy. I've been trying to improve the channel a little bit, and I did something interesting today. I asked Grok to help out. So I said first to Grok, so which mainstream conservative thinker or commentator, influencer on the right do I most resemble? And it came back as it was Tucker Carlson. I was like, oh, wow, cool, that's great. And it gave me a lot of information on like that and why I was not like a bunch of other influencers. I'm surprised it didn't include Megyn Kelly on the list, but it did put in Candace Owens. So that was kind of fun. What is it? Have some good content coming up with people. I reached out to my friend Owen to do a stream, and then so hopefully he'll get back to me about that. And then and I have on Friday Richard Swank, a guy I know from another show that I do, and he's been wanting to come on the podcast for a little bit and talk about stuff. And he's a former Air Force officer for the AWACS program. So he flew around AWACS. I'm not sure if he was maintenance or officer or he was a pilot, but he was on those things as well. So I asked Grok to help out, and Grok gave me some ideas. So do ominous music at the start. Well, I think I have to do a bit more on doing that. But I said, hey, cook me up I said, first off, tell me what's the big news in intelligence line today. And it's like, oh, well, the big breaking news for today is the fact that Iran lost its Minister of Intelligence by the Israelis today. And I'm like, okay, why don't we do some topical stuff? Just not just my reactions to what they do. Though I do have a short Promethean action one that I'll throw at the end to help keep this to at least an hour. So I even asked him Grok to come up with a script. So welcome back to the Spy Guy, where we peel back the layers on the spy games, intel ops, and hidden histories they don't want you talking about. I'm David March, the Spy Guy. Today, overnight chaos in Tehran. Israel claims and Iran now confirms they've eliminated Esmail Khatib, Iran's Minister of Intelligence, third high-ranking official, down in under 48 hours following the hits on Security Chief Ali Laranji and Mossad Commander Gholamrazi Soleimani, which is interesting. Another Soleimani, one related to the other one. In the future, when I had to go out before the show today, so I couldn't get some things done. I think when I use Grok for this kind of thing in the future, I will like get more background on these guys and do that as well. This isn't random. It's a deliberate decapitation strategy targeting the regime's eyes and ears, but it is genius Mossad tradecraft. I've been learning a lot more about Mossad lately. They're an interesting group of people. Like, I've always been much more interested in CIA and KGB, Cold War stuff, or like NKVD stuff from the history books. I haven't always been as just the Mossad really didn't come up on my radar too much. So outside a few movies on Middle East stuff, mainly because I just didn't consider that my wheelhouse. This isn't random. It's a deliberate decapitation strategy targeting the regime's eyes and ears. Or the spark that drags America deeper into another endless war. Well, I don't think this war is going to be an endless war. That's what I take it. Let's break it down like I can only do. First, the target, who was Esmail Khatib. He wasn't just some bureaucrat. He was the Minister of Intel since 2021, and he ran the Ministry of MOSS, or the Ministry of Intelligence and Security, Iran's primary civilian spy agency. It's more kind of like, it's very much about like historical Savak. Both the CIA and FBI rolled into one repressive machine. He was the guy in charge of all internal crackdowns on protests, cyber ops against the West, and counterintelligence against Mossad penetrations, which they don't look like they were very good at. I think, given the state of Iran, Mossad has a lot of penetrations going on there. I've also heard from a lot of people that the CIA has given up on doing that, and now was much more reliant on MI6 and Mossad for all the ground intelligence. Certainly, we saw that in the Ukraine war, where they were not very good at that. Basically, how do they know what's going on? The Ukrainians would tell them we're supplying all the CIA and the intelligence. Just drive down. Here's the Ukrainian brief. Don't you have your own analysis? My understanding of the Defense Intelligence Agency is a lot better than that. But yeah, the U.S. sanctioned him in 2022 for cyber threats. Israel called him the chief of repression and assassination, internal murder squads, and external plots. This has a historical parallel to the echoes of the 2020 hit on nuclear scientist Mossad Farazada, remote operating machine gun, or the 2022 killings of IRGC colonels. They used this, took out this scientist. I definitely want to, like I said, if I had more time today, I would have done more of this prepping and find out more about these stories. Or the 2022 killings of the IRGC colonels. But taking out the sitting intel minister in Tehran itself, that's next level bold, risking the massive intel humiliation for the regime. I heard some people talking about it today, and it's like, who's the guy we're going to replace the Colonel Ayatollah with? Oh, it's his son, who's even the guy who's the head of like the militia that basically beats up and shoots protesters. Well, don't we have any other options we could make deal? Well, we kind of killed them already. Ooh, so you killed your better options? No wonder why this thing is getting better. The great thing about an air campaign is you can just declare victory is over and successful when it's completed. You don't have to keep going on about what's going on in the world. So that's what's that about. Sorry, using two different. Next time I'll make sure I do this on my Google. How did it happen? No, how the juicy part. How do you hit the intel's chief in his own capital? Reports point to an overnight targeted strike, likely precision airstrike or drone, possibly with ground intel. Israel authorized hits on any senior Iranian official without extra approval. Netanyahu and Defense Minister Katz greenlit a kill list. Mossad's fingerprints were everywhere. It was long-term penetration. Khatib was probably under surveillance for years. Human sources inside MOAS or close protection. Signals intel or Signet tracking his movements. And he probably was cyber compromised for a real-time location. Yeah. And yeah, just they've been buying off a lot of people. This fits Israel's pattern. Soleimani in Baghdad with a U.S. drone, but in 2020, but intel Israeli. Nuclear scientists via motorcycle bombs or remote guns. Tehran strikes are rare, high risk of escalation, but the war is already hot, right? Come on, guys. Questions for anyone who actually listens to this. Was this Mossad solo or U.S. enabled? Bunker buster near Hormuz, Palantir's AI kill chains, the fingerprint suggests coordination. But as we saw, Joe Kent, Trump's National Counterterrorism Center director, just resigned in protest, saying Iran posed no imminent threat, and the war started from pressures from Israel and its powerful American lobby. And of course, tonight we're going to have Joe Kent on Tucker Carlson, so we'll see how that goes. I promised some friends I'd watch it for them so they didn't have to. That is not a fringe situation there. It's a senior intel guy walking away. And a lot of people are kind of caught up in there's a lot of psyop going on right now that Israel is basically in charge of the country and is doing all this. And I don't agree. I think this was an attempt to take out the major factor of instability in the Middle East. Until you got rid of Iran, you couldn't get the border peace and all the stuff done there. Now, how has it been clumsily implemented? Yeah, you can say that. When you're killing off the guys who would have been your best guys to go with, your best alternatives that you really wanted to negotiate, that's kind of a screw up. Iran's response, missile barrages overnight. That being said, they were doing that anyways. Cluster munitions near Tel Aviv, 2 civilian dead so far. Threats to Gulf oil facilities in Saudi, Qatar, UAE, evacuation warnings issued. I think they would have shot off those missiles regardless. I don't think that's necessarily an escalation. It's just a war. The South Pars gas field, world's largest, repeatedly hit earlier. 75% of Iran's gas production. Lights flickering in Tehran, that's the point. Yeah, I don't agree with these attacks on the infrastructure. Now, if they could do it targeted like the Russians did with Ukraine, where they were crippling the train system initially by just taking out power stations because they figured out a 0 point thing. If that is something we're doing, or the United States is doing here, that'd be great. We can take out a substation and turn off all the electricity, but we can easily replace a substation after the war. But here's the realistic. This is a tit-for-tat escalation. Iran vows revenge, but their grids are vulnerable. Oil prices are spiking. Yeah, $110 Brent crude today. There's 90 ships out today, but the choke point risks are real. Someone pointed, I was listening to Tom Longo talk about this. He says, this is always what the British do. They put in, I've talked previously about Lloyd's London being an MI6 plot, and this is all about the financial situation going on. Basically, the success of the British Empire was always finding a choke point and putting a tax on it. Suez Canal, Gibraltar, Strait of Hormuz, building up places where people can have these strategic choke points and charging a tariff and toll on it. Historical red pills and big American first angle. U.S. is draining its Patriot THAAD Tomahawk stockpile. Troops exposed. Why are we backing endless proxy hits when China watches and waits? Well, that's a good point. There is some thing to say that the U.S. is deliberately destroying its own weapon stockpiles. Yes, Kent's resignation screams at no imminent threat, yet here we are. Bankers' Wars 2.0. Yeah, I guess Grok about that, and he said, "Yeah, you're always talking about bankers' wars and all your Smedley Butler stuff." And yeah, that's a great book. Available for free on the internet. All wars are bankers' wars. Now, I had historical red pills and bigger picture. History lesson: assassinations rarely topple regimes; they harden them. I look at Soleimani in 2020. The IRGC got stronger up until the 12-day war, when they got weaker when Israel got total air superiority pretty quickly. Pass-offs against Saddam's inside chiefs. Yeah, regimes purge, promote loyalists, double the security. Yeah, that's often what happens. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, already warned retaliation, funerals for Laranji and others today. Mass mourning turns to rage. How much are these mass mournings staged? Like, I'm always reminded of the German foreign minister, prime minister, president, right before the elections, and he held a rally with 20,000 people screaming his name. And the next week they went to the polls, and he got 1% of the vote. Yes, this is definitely comparable to. Yes, we've also heard stories about like. This is also about like keeping countries down. Like the communists took over Cuba when it was richer than Spain at the beginning of the revolution. Socialism has blacked out that country right now. It's got a blackout. Trump is forcing into negotiations with their current leader, though Raul Castro, I understand, is still alive somehow. And those Castros are immortal. Are they getting any of that sacrifice stuff? I don't know. Syrian here, regime incompetence. Well, it's an incompetence. Was it basically the Shah of Iran was trying to modernize and enrich his people, and other countries like Britain and France did not want that to happen. So you install a leader like the Shah who will keep his people primitive and down and not advancing civilization and making their countries better again, working to enrich the people. And so basically keeping, much like the British did in India when they destroyed the weaver trade. They cut off the hands, all the right hands of the weavers, so they couldn't work. in those things. So that is often something that happens. Who are benefiting from this? Arms dealers, oil giants. Well, yeah, I can see where it's giving me the Tucker slant here. Arms dealers, maybe. That's usually more of a post the conflict thing where you have the arms dealers getting the deals, where like if you watch Lord of War and it turns out it was just cheaper to ship all the M16s to a country than to take it back, and you'd be buying all the M16s for cheap. Oil giants, yeah. I do think everyday Americans will benefit when there is no need for all this all this regional instability. You can definitely get the troops to come home if there's no Iran to cause problems and make you divert resources there. If the regime were just North Korea, a blasted little place but didn't bother anyone, didn't fund regime change and instability throughout the Middle East because they have dreams of this global desire, no one would be bothering them. They'd just be another one of these crappy dictators that live around like Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, all these guys. We never hear from those countries. We don't care that much about those countries. But because Iran has these wants to be a tool of the globalists by causing instability, and so some banker can put in a short on something in Israel, perhaps, and make money off of it. That's kind of how I see it. So was this a masterstroke that because Tehran or escalation that pulls the U.S. into boots on ground prep the U.S. can't afford? Drop your takes below. My take is that I think they're going to grab the other side. It's not going the MEU, if it arrives in time to be decisive, it's not going to be used to attack Karg Island. Who cares? Grab the other side of the Strait of the Hormuz, put out a perimeter about 10 to 20, whatever perimeter you can do with a Marine Expeditionary Unit. And basically, they can't do the Strait, block the Straits of Hormuz because you've taken out that side. That's the theory I heard from Tom Longo today. And I think that's also the theory that it tracks with what I was suspecting. If these guys get there and this isn't solved by that. So if you want full of deep dive docs, historical parallels, and unfiltered analysis, please like, share, and subscribe. I will definitely use that last line at the end, but let me just go see over here. I wanted to do a Promethean action update from like the one we did yesterday. Sorry, guys. I'm normally a bit more prepped for this stuff, but I kind of... Yeah. So here we go. And I will share. Sorry, guys. I'm usually like to do a little bit more prep, but I was kind of rushed.
What Trump did at the State of the Union, he walked Democrats right into a trap, and they didn't even see it coming until it was too late.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Now he's doing...
And the Democrats sat there like, good God, you just make copy. I mean, I get Trump's unpopular and things are going crazy there, but you gotta see that TAC ad coming in the summertime or in the fall.
The same thing with the modern British financial empire and their enforcement arm, namely NATO.
But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agreed that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
No.
Well, I also don't think he wanted them there, Trump, but it is a great test there. And the fact that France and Spain are refusing to allow troops to use their bases, that's a tell.
Notice how he calls this a great test. He followed up on Truth Social, concluding he wasn't surprised by NATO's refusal to defend ships in the Strait of Hormuz, since we spent billions defending them with absolutely no return to us. The media is telling you that Trump is throwing a tantrum because our European allies won't help protect the strait, that he's mad about oil prices. They're all wrong. President Trump has been preparing to leave NATO for months. The allies' refusal to back him on Iran didn't cause his break with NATO. It confirmed his idea about their stupid games. I'm Barbara Boyd. I've spent decades tracking the British financial empire's imperial wars in the Middle East and NATO's role as their enforcement arm across all of Eurasia. Today, I'm going to first cover Trump dumping NATO, a huge story. Then how Iran illustrates the battle between Trump's American system economics and the British free trade looters. And finally, how the globalists are trying to split MAGA through their oldest weapon, religious warfare. But first, please like and share this video. It increases our reach on YouTube. The end of NATO didn't begin last week. It began in February 2025 at the Munich Security Conference, the premier annual gathering of the NATO alliance. Vice President J.D. Vance walked into that room and told Europe's assembled leadership that Europe wasn't being threatened from without, it was being destroyed from within by totalitarian censorship, thought crime prosecutions, open borders, and election rigging.
Yeah, that was a pretty, we'll hear Vance's thing, but yeah, that's pretty crazy that the Europeans place a bunch of ethno states, kind of like Israel, have imported all these people in a very stupid way of doing it and at the ultimate cost of their own people.
Also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense. The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America.
The room was astounded.
Yeah. No, what do you mean someone's going to... You can't tell us that we're being a horrible bunch of dictators, even though we're being a horrible bunch of dictators. Ooh.
Vance wasn't wrong, and the Trump administration was serving notice on NATO. Here's where Iran enters this picture. Under Biden, the Europeans, France, Germany, and the UK had taken the lead on the Iran nuclear file under Biden's Iran envoy, Robert Mueller. Now, Mueller came under investigation for mishandling classified documents and suspected recruitment by Iranian intelligence. So those talks went nowhere while Iran built its arsenal. In March 2025, Donald Trump wrote to Ayatollah Khamenei seeking renewed nuclear negotiations with a 60-day deadline. When that deadline expired, he launched Operation Midnight Hammer, bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. After initial waffling, the UK, Germany, and France finally fell in line, supporting the strike and initiating sweeping sanctions against Iran. But in their own backyard, the Europeans were playing a double game, doing everything in their power to sabotage Trump's settlement of the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah, that's been pretty bad. The Europeans have been trying to continue that war because they have this stupid idea that they can break up Russia into a bunch of small little countries, and that will basically allow Russia to will be dead, and that they can loot those countries like they've looted so many African, South American, and all the colonies. And sometimes they're not looting, sometimes they're just preventing development, which is a big thing that's been going on here in Canada, where they're like, existence of Quebec is a big problem, right?
A war killing thousands every week. And now, their abject refusal to defend oil and gas shipments through the Gulf, including gas due for their own countries, has solved the testing the president has been doing of them. They have failed. they have shown their true faces. Here's President Trump yesterday on leaving NATO.
Disappointed in NATO that we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits and we help other countries. And when they don't help us, I mean, it's certainly something that we should think about. I don't need Congress for that decision, as you.
Apparently he can unilaterally leave NATO, even though it's a treaty signed by the I think it is. Yeah, it's a treaty passed by the Senate. The president has the ability to break treaties. It's interesting. That's what it's the executive.
Probably now I can make that decision myself. I'd work with some very smart people. And I'd always deal with Congress anyway, but I don't need Congress for that decision. But, you know, when you say rethink, I have nothing currently in mind, but I will say that I'm not exactly thrilled when we help them with Ukraine.
Trump is seriously thinking about dumping the Praetorian Guard of the globalist financial empire, and he doesn't need Congress to do it. He's clearly thought about it. The media won't cover that astounding and revolutionary statement. But that's our mission.
Well, Fox News covered it.
Here at Promethean Action, to mine for you the events which matter. Subscribe to our free newsletter and you'll be in the president's mental space, not that of our nation's enemies. To understand what Trump is actually doing, you have to read what his administration has actually written. The national security strategy came out in December. The defense strategy followed in January. Both delivered huge bad news for the post-war globalist financial order. He wants out of Europe. He's prioritizing the Western Hemisphere, our own country, and trade with the Pacific. Here's what the national security strategy says explicitly about the Middle East. As this administration rescinds or eases restrictive energy policies and American energy production wraps up, America's historical reason for focusing on the Middle East will recede. Instead, the region will increasingly become a source of destination of international investment in industries well beyond oil and gas, including nuclear energy, AI, and defense technologies.
We should stop calling these things defense technologies. We should. I was talking to a friend the other night, and he said, "If it's the Department of War, we should stop calling the defense industry. We should call it the war industry." And I'm like, yes, we should. So we shouldn't be saying AI and defense technologies. We need to say AI and war technologies, because this is the world we live in. We live in a world with war. The world has returned to normal. The last 80 years of this weird international law-based world is dead. It died when Vladimir Putin's tanks rolled across the border of Ukraine in February 24th, 2022. This is what's happened.
Read that again. The intent is to get out of the Middle East militarily and open a new chapter of American-led economic development. And it's not just words. The Gulf states have already committed $17 trillion in investments into the American economy. So why bomb Iran? Because Iran's constant proxy warfare creates perpetual regional instability. And that instability keeps oil prices volatile and high. That volatility is a direct threat to Trump's economic revolution at home. That revolution is built on one major foundation: cheap, reliable energy. Drill, baby, drill isn't a slogan. It's the load-bearing wall of everything Trump is building for the American working class. And it's not just Iran standing in the way. Oil prices are not set in Riyadh or Houston. They're set to London's spot and commodity markets.
Yeah, here we go. The city of London striking again. But the fact is, it is weird. Why is all insurance? If America's Navy is guaranteeing the seas, why aren't they? Is an American insurance guaranteeing the seas? Why does Lloyd's of London still get to do all that stuff? And why does
and those markets profit.
Yeah. Oh, and the Brent crude contract. Why is that still being run out of London? Why are we allowing all these things? Why? It's because it's so complex. No, it's not. It's not complex at all. Oil should be the most predictable market in the world. But if you're a banker if you're a bunch of banks or insurance companies, and you have all, you know when the war is coming, and you know when the war is set to start, you can short the key industries that will be affected by that war and make your profit. And that's where I see a lot of this stuff. We have to realize that these people have ends, and the intelligence agencies don't necessarily work for us. They work for them.
From exactly the instability Iran provides. The major oil companies have told Trump repeatedly they're not interested in drill, baby, drill. Excess supply drives down prices and endangers their preference for shareholder value, share buybacks. They would rather manage scarcity than flood the market with cheap American energy. And then there's the ideological.
No, it's too bad for them. Nuclear is coming, guys. Better get on board.
Layer in Europe. The UK, Canada, and Europe remain committed to the green religion, willing to.
And as I've said to multiple people, it doesn't matter what Ottawa says here. They can have all their green energy reduction there. The provinces make the decisions. The provinces decide things here. And the provinces, most of the provinces that I'm looking at are building nuclear like it's going out of style. It's like we do not have a nuclear regulatory commission in Canada. If Doug Ford wants to build a bunch of nuclear power plants, drive a road all the way up to James Bay and build a harbor to ship out to bypass Quebec, then by God, we're going to do it.
To punish their own citizens with crushing energy prices in service of that ideology. Cheap American energy isn't just an economic competitor to them, it's a theological threat. So when you see NATO allies refusing to back Trump on Iran, this isn't a diplomatic spat among friends. This is the enforcement arm of the British financial empire fighting for its own survival. While all this plays out on the world stage, the globalists are running a very old play right here at home. I lived through 1968. The assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King didn't just grieve the country, it traumatized it. They broke millions of people's willingness to fight, to believe political action could change anything. What followed was the counterculture. Remember that? Turn on, tune in, drop out. Not a whole lot of.
How much of that was a psyop too? That's something that has definitely been talked a little bit around here.
People stayed in the fight. I watched a similar but different dynamic unfold in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination on September 10th, 2025, just 6 months ago. In that traumatized, suggestible atmosphere, two separate internet warfare operations ignited, and I don't believe either is coincidental. The first told MAGA that Trump is controlled by Netanyahu, by an all-powerful Israeli lobby, by a foreign power. The implication? Your movement has been betrayed. Never mind that Trump has been calling for military action against Iran since 2011 and earlier, before he was even a candidate. The second ran the opposite current, that the administration is riddled with secret Israel haters, Muslim sympathizers, anti-war saboteurs. Two currents, opposite directions. Same result. Fraction of the coalition that delivered Trump's overwhelming November victory ahead of the midterms. MAGA in 2024 was an interfaith movement. The Muslim vote in Michigan was decisive. Arab Americans, Hindu Americans, evangelical Christians, Jews, traditional Catholics, all under one banner. Religious warfare has been the global empire's weapon of choice for permanent war in the Middle East for decades. And they're very good at it, and they're doing it here now. In addition to the president, their primary targets are Vice President Vance and DNI Tulsi Gabbard, both of whom built political careers on opposition to regime change wars. Both are essential right now for their missions aimed at dismantling the deep state. Here's Vance at the fraud task force signing ceremony when a reporter tried to drive exactly that wedge between him and the president that we're talking about.
I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon.
And Tulsi, yesterday, one of her top deputies, Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned, claiming Iran posed no imminent threat and the war was started due to Israeli lobby pressure. That statement is word for word the globalist psychological warfare narrative.
Yeah, too many of my friends are coming from that thing are just crushing. It sound like boomers in 2020 during COVID. Like we have to do all these crazy things, or we'll we'll all die. And you don't do you want grandma to die? I'm like, well, I don't. All my grandparents are dead already, so it's not a big thing. Why can't we know who's at risk here? It's not people under the age of 40. Okay, we can have the young 40-year-old people go out and work and not be stuck in their crashing out in their homes all the time.
It came from inside the building. Here's Gabbard's response. Donald Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president and commander-in-chief. After carefully reviewing all the information before him, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamist regime in Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. Neither one of them took the bait, and the polling shows MAGA supports the war. The president's base gets it. But you can't deliver the victory that we need in the midterms if it's just the MAGA base.
Right.
This side war is aimed at all the low propensity voters, so-called, the voters who turned out in record numbers for Trump in November. That's who the PSYOP is seeking to demoralize, along with the first-time Trump voters who were Democrats and the independents. We're going to put some effort into neutralizing it right now, this operation. But it starts with you, our listeners. You know the people are...
Yeah, so just kind of finishing it off there. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff we're going to start doing. So I'll be having Grok assist me with the podcast. I'll try to do more research. So I'm just not, and to understand the script a bit better, because yeah, definitely some of the things in there, because it thinks I'm very Tucker Carlson like, is giving me Tucker Carlson talking points, which is not exactly my brand. I'm a realist. I understand the need to attack Iran, to take it off the table in the way it has been. So I'll close that down. And I would like the 3 people who have been consistently listening to me. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so like what you heard here, please like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully Grok and I can help us get better. And if I will, yeah. Okay, where do we got here? Stay vigilant. History doesn't repeat. It rhymes with red pills. See you next episode. This Friday, we're going to have the Air Force guy on. And we'll be doing more stuff like this. So thanks for dropping in and seeing what I'm all about. I tend to stream around 4 o'clock on most days. On Fridays, I stream around 2 or sometimes go early in the morning on a Saturday, well, depending if I can get one of my friends on who can talk about stuff. And it looks like I'm going to have an evening stream as well this week. Thank you very much for stopping by, and